Hey folks, I hope that you guys are doing pretty well. So today is Saturday, the 1st of February 2025, and in today's video, I'm going to offer you Bible commentary regarding this cluster of four Bible prophecies in the book of Luke, chapter 23, okay, verses 28 to 31. These four prophecies actually belong to the tribulation period, okay, and as always, I do have a program here, so we're going to be going verse 5 verse, except for verse 28, which I will discuss in a moment, the introduction, but then I'm going to discuss here how all these verses link up to other prophecies and so on, okay? And I will give you my own commentary on verse 31, okay? All right, then. So let's begin. If you read, generally speaking, Luke chapter 23, okay, we read here how Jesus is actually carrying the cross, okay? But then he got really tired, and then Simon, the Cyrenian, um, helped Jesus, and they laid the cross unto him. In other words, that Simon the Cyrenian began to carry the cross for Jesus, uh, you know, on the way to Golgotha, where Jesus was crucified. Okay, following Jesus and Simon the Syrian, there was a great company of people and women that follow Simon and Jesus, of course, and which they bewailed and lamented, upon Jesus. Of course, he was, going to the cross. Okay, and many of these women, cry for Jesus, lamented, for him, But then Jesus, turning unto them, said, "Daughters of Jerusalem," in other words, Jewish women, if you like, weep not for me, or don't cry for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. Okay, so Jesus is laying the foundation here. Uh, you know, although these women don't realize it, of course, I'm pretty sure they didn't realize it, that Jesus was prophesying for the tribulation period. Jesus was saying, "Don't weep for me, you women of Jerusalem, because throughout the tribulation period, the days are coming," like it says here on verse 29, in which you're gonna hope that you were actually barren, okay, that you were barren in your wombs, and that you never bore any babies, because the tribulation period is going to be really, really bad, and so this is what Jesus is saying to these women, don't weep for me, daughters of Jerusalem, or Jewish women, if you like, because the days are coming, like it says on verse 29, in which they shall say, "Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bear, and the paps which never carry sack," in other words, little babies. Okay, so generally speaking, this verse 29, sorry, is going to happen throughout the whole tribulation period. And why is this? Because it's Jacob's trouble, and because people are going to be very scared. Because if you head over to the book of Jeremiah, okay, and you go to chapter 30, you only got to look at verse 5, okay? "For thus saith the Lord, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace." Okay, so I want you to remember a voice of trembling, fear, and not of peace. And then this is exactly what's going to happen, folks. The days are coming in which they shall say, "Blessed are the barren and the ones that never bear," because I just showed you the prophecy in Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 5, that people are going to have a lot of fear, and as a result of that fear, during the tribulation period, families are going to wish that the women were barren and that they never had any kids, for obvious reasons, because, the tribulation period is going to be horrible. So on my program here, then, of course, Luke 23, verses 28 to 31 are tribulation period prophecies, okay? And here it reads, "For behold, the days are coming, in which they shall say, Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bear, and the paps which never carry sack." This is what the Jewish people will say throughout the whole tribulation period, okay, in both first and second half, but precisely even more in the second half of the tribulation period when Jerusalem is compassed with armies, okay, according to Luke 21:20. And then this prophecy on verse 29 here links up with Luke 21:23. But woe unto them that are with child, okay, and to them that keep suck, in other words, babies, in those days, in other words, throughout the tribulation period. For there shall be great distress in the land and wrath upon these people, in other words, the Jewish people. So you can see here quite well, verse 29 says, behold, the days are coming, we such as say, blessed are the barren, and in here in Luke 21:23 we go about woe unto them that are with a child, okay, and to them that keep sucking those sides, for there shall be great distress in the land. So you can see the linkage then here, although this prophecy on verse 29 is actually for both the first and the second half, okay, the Jewish people, especially the women in the second half of the tribulation period, are going to be reminded of this verse 29 because, um, what we see happening in Luke 21:20, when Jerusalem is compassed, So if you head over to Luke 21, verse 20, okay, and we shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, they know that desolation thereof is nigh, okay. In other words, the abomination of desolation, according to Daniel 9:27, okay. Then, of course, let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains and so on. For these are the days of vengeance. That's why, on verse 29, families are going to wish that, their wives never bear any children, Blessed are they that are barren because it's going to be so bad, according to Luke 21:20, and as Jerusalem is compassed, we're going to have the abomination of desolation, and that will be the days of vengeance, okay? And then woe unto them that are with a child, okay? And to them that keep sucking our lost little babies in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land and wrath upon these people, meaning the Jewish people. So this verse 29 then, in here, okay, it actually links well with all these prophecies here in Luke 21, okay, in Luke 21, verses 20 to 24, generally speaking, especially in the second half when Jerusalem is compassed. They're going to be the days of vengeance. You're going to have the abomination of desolation. Many Jewish people are going to fall by the edge of the sword and so on, and want to them to have kids, like it says here, verse 23. So, as you can well imagine, then, verse 29, it's really going to have a big effect on Jewish families, especially in the second half of the tribulation period. So the Jewish people are going to be, remembering, this, wishing that the women were barren because in the second half of the tribulation period, Jerusalem is going to be encompassed with armies, according to Luke 21:20, and then this prophecy in verse 29 links up with Luke 21:23, like I said before, but one to them that are with a child and to them that keep sucking those dice, okay? So, yeah, it's going to be pretty horrible, sadly, Anyway, moving along then, verse 30, okay, like it says here, then shall they begin to say to the mountains, fall on us, and to the hills, cover us. Now, this sounds like it's kind of like linked to Revelation 6:16, Um, you know, here it reads, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that seated on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. So let me just show you quickly Revelation 6:16. So yeah, just at the back of the Bible here, folks. Bear with me for 1 second. So if you go to Revelation chapter 6, okay, and you begin to read verses 15 and 16, and the kings of the earth, and the great men and the rich men, and so on, hid themselves in dens and in the rocks or the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. Okay, so this verse 30 then leads up to Revelation 6, verses 15, but more in particular, verse 16, when they will begin to say to the mountains, fall on us, okay? And then to finish up, verse 31, for if they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in the dry? Now, this is a figure of speech. It's quite difficult to decipher. You gotta actually give it a lot of thought, okay? You gotta be creative in your thinking. I wanna give you my own commentary. For if they do these things, what things are they doing to Jesus? Okay, because Jesus is saying, for if they, who if is they? These are the Romans, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees, okay, that are sending Jesus to the cross, okay. So we got Jesus has already fallen with the cross because he was beaten down and he was very tired as he was heading towards Golgotha. And Simon the Cyrenian took the cross, on behalf of Jesus, okay? So Jesus is saying here, for if they, meaning the Romans, okay, the Romans and the Pharisees and the Sadducees, if you read the account, crucify him, and Pontius Pilate, okay, just gave up because he was under heavy pressure from the Jewish authorities, okay, and so he just gave up Jesus to the Jewish people, okay, and and they cried, crucify him. But anyway, long story short is that if they do these things in a green tree, in other words, if the Romans, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees do these things to me, in other words, send me to the cross, in other words, the green tree is actually representing the cross, okay? So if these Romans and Pharisees and Sadducees do these things in a green tree, meaning that they're sending me to the cross and I'm completely innocent because the tree is green, what shall be done in the dry? In other words, if they are giving me such a horrible punishment, the Romans, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees, and I'm completely innocent, okay? And the cross that they're giving me here is actually, is symbolizing the cross, but it's saying that it's green, meaning that Jesus is innocent, okay? What shall be done in the dry? In other words, how horrible the Romans, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, how horrible they going to be on someone who is guilty. In other words, a dry tree. Okay. So for my commentary here, then, okay, for if they do these things in a green tree, in other words, the green tree symbolizing, the cross of Jesus. Okay, Jesus going to the cross, and I put here I double N, meaning completely innocent. So the green tree. Think of the color green. Okay, think of vegetation when it's green. It means that that the green tree is growing really healthy. It's well. Okay, so Jesus, is carrying his green tree. In other words, the cross. Okay, he's completely innocent. Okay, so it's kind of like a figure of speech. This is a figure of speech, as if Jesus is saying to the Romans, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees, if you are putting me to death and I'm totally innocent, okay, and I'm carrying this green tree, in other words, this cross which is completely innocent, okay, what shall you do to somebody who is guilty, in other words, carrying a dry tree, meaning, a tree that is dead, but Jesus is a green tree, okay, he's symbolizing innocence, okay, and life, whereas the dry tree symbolizing death, okay, and guilt, okay. For if they, meaning the Romans, the Pharisees and the Sadducees do these things, what things are they doing? They're sending Jesus to the cross, okay? And sadly, someone that's, Syrian, um, sadly for Jesus, he was so dark because he was punished, and thankfully Simon the Syrian was said to help out Jesus, and you know, the cross of Jesus was kind of like a green tree, symbolic of the green tree. In other words, that he was completely innocent going to the cross, and he's saying, I'm completely innocent, and these are the things, okay, that these Romans and Pharisees and Sadducees are doing to me. If they are being so cruel, what are they gonna do to a dry tree, meaning a tree with no life, someone who's completely guilty? So this is kind of like verse 31. It's kind of like talking about the hard punishment of Jesus, but Jesus is saying here, if you like, as in a figure of speech. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so yeah, just to finish up, folks, these four prophecies here are actually for the tribulation period, and this verse 29 actually belongs to both the first and the second half of the tribulation period. In those days, don't forget that I told you about Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 5. We're going to be very scared. Let me just quickly show you that, just to give you a reminder, okay? Because I want you to understand this. In Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 5, okay? We have heard a voice of trembling. Trembling, remember trembling, remember fear, and no peace, okay? So, if they are trembling, they are in fear and there is no peace, okay? They are in such great fear that they're going to be wishing that, the Jewish men, especially that the women were barren, because who wants to have kids, during the tribulation period, which is going to be horrible, and the Jewish people are going to be really scared, they're going to be trembling, there's going to be no peace, and they're going to be wishing that the women were barren. So they're going to be saying this throughout, the first and the second half of the tribulation period, but even more so during the second half of the tribulation period, when Jerusalem is compassed with armies, according to Luke 21:20, okay? And then this prophecy leads to verse 29 with a link up with, Luke 21:23, but one to them that are with child and to them that keep sack in those sides, in other words, you know, one to them meaning that, the Jewish men, women too, they're gonna wish that, they never had any kids, during the tribulation period, because it's gonna be horrible. I'll just show you that prophecy in Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 5, where people are gonna be scared, So as you can see here, just to finish up, verse 30, people gonna, the Jewish people gonna wish that rocks will fall upon them, highlighting stuff to Revelation 6:16, okay? And to finish up on verse 31, the green tree, it represents Jesus going to the cross. He's completely innocent, okay? Whereas the dry tree represents someone who is completely guilty, and is going to die in the sin, so to speak, But it's kind of like a figure of speech, okay? Alright, folks, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all later.